I got cut off at one point, but I was asking earlier when we were talking about Fire Pro. Did anybody play the one for PlayStation 2 that did come out in America? Fire Pro R? So I played the hell out of that game.
That was actually my first introduction to Fire Pro.
What a way to break in, man. I started on the Game Boy Advance ones myself, but like that was the first real one I played, and oh my god, did that game blow my mind. I forget how many people they let you create, but I maxed out how many people they would let you make. I think they'd let you make like 300 people or something.
Yeah, it was about 300 characters. Again, I'm played over at a friend's house, and I'm just sitting there, and I'm like, well, dude, your card doesn't have enough memory space. And he's like, trust me, you don't have to worry about it.
That's what I love about those Fire Pro games, man. Because it's 2D, and I know, Mark, you mentioned graphics for a couple other games. I know some of these things, you look at them, and it's like, well, it looks rather simplistic, but, oh, man, when it comes to wrestling games, gameplay trumps everything. It trumps the graphics. It trumps everything. I mean, point of fact, the TNA game probably still has the best graphics of any wrestling game I've ever seen. But the gameplay just isn't there. It just doesn't play well, even though it looks fantastic. Whereas you get these games like Fire Pro, where the one on PS4 doesn't look all that different from the ones on Super Nintendo. Graphically, they're smoother, but they don't look all that much different. But when you play them, it's like, oh yeah, okay, I get what this is all about. And then all those misgivings about any of that stuff just goes right out the window because it's just too busy hitting rolling Germans and everything else.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, there's no real difference in like the last two Fire Pros as compared to this one, like graphic wise. Like I said, like you said, you nailed it on the head. It's smoother, but otherwise, like, no real change to that. But the gameplay is just so good that I'm surprised it's flown under the radar in the States as much as it has. Like, you really gotta know your wrestling gaming to like even look at that and know what it is.
What I think kills it for me is simply that a lot of people in this country, they look at a game and they look at the graphics and they make a lot of decisions based on that before anything else. They're like, well, it looks like ... It's been like that for a very long time. And when it comes to something like Fire Pro, where it hasn't visually changed substantially in 25 years, some people might feel like it's not worth their time. But, I mean, as far as a wrestling sim goes, a game that feels like wrestling, and every move you've ever thought of is in there, like, there's always games we play, and they're always just a little bit behind the curve, and it's like, oh man, so-and-so just started doing that move on Raw, I wish they put it in the game, but it's not in there. And Fire Pro has every move you've ever heard of, and a million you haven't heard of. Like, 30 different power bomb variations. I when I was making Benoit for one of them, and I went to give him the rolling German suplex for the PS2 version, and there's like 5 different versions of the rolling German. I'm like, whoa. And things like that just blow my mind. And because it's 2D, they're able to program it that way because they're not pissing away all the memory on the fucking graphics. Like, I love good graphics, but, gameplay is what's most important, and I feel like that's why Fire Pro is Fire Pro. Because they present it very simply on the front end, but then when you play it, you find out how deep it really is, and then it's like, wow, this is way better than anything on those flashy, more modern-looking games. They can't do as much.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, on a technical aspect, that's probably one of the deepest wrestling games that I have ever laid my hands on.
I love how, like, even in that game, you can do MMA fights, just so much you can do. The options are limitless. Battle royals, death matches. Which one? I think it was Fire Pro Advance 2. They had the exploding ring time bomb death match. Did they have something like that in the newest one?
They brought it back, yeah.
That's so awesome. Imagine that, Mark. Imagine playing a wrestling game where you have like 10 in-game minutes to win. Otherwise, the ring, which is laced with C4, is going to explode.
Oh, God.
And then after that, whoever is left standing is the winner, and sometimes both guys get knocked out.
Oh, Jesus. Now, here's a question, though. So, for the PS4 one, the one that I could just literally just download next week or whatever, it's still like $50, though. But, how many guys are in there at the start of that one, just offhand?
That one is a little close to. Ooh, I want to say it's close to like 250.
Holy crap!
Oh yeah,
and that's before you add the DLC with the factions.
Yeah, I saw a couple of DLC. I noticed they got a bunch of like Stardom and Joshi type DLC. Are there women in the game normally too, or those are like extra add-ons? Or
there are a few women in there as well, but like,
do they fight the guys, or do they kind of separate like the game or whatever?
They actually have like a men and a women's division on that, but you can actually like pit them against a female.
Oh, that's cool. I see how the game just separates. Like, for example, like WWE Battlegrounds, like, the women are separated in their own little thing. So, if you play career mode, since they're building up like a dude, like you'll never ever encounter any of the female wrestlers during the career mode and stuff like that. So, it feels kind of limiting in a way.
The only reason I don't have it yet is because I don't have a PlayStation 4. But I really, as a huge Fire Pro fan, I would be all over it. And definitely on my next PlayStation purchase, that's going to be the game to get. That's like really the only reason that I don't have a PS4 is because I got an Xbox One originally. So most of the games come out for both. So I pretty much have every game I'd ever want on the Xbox One already. But that damn Fire Pro is the exclusive. So
well, I mean, it did come out on PC as well. So
yeah, I don't play PC games. I'm weird.
Not only that, but dude, Black Friday's coming up, so.
This is true. I mean, I just
like if I'm playing Fire Pro and all of a sudden, whoa, what the fuck? Rikki Roxx just hopped online. Holy shit, he's destroying all my guys.
But you know, I played a few of them since then. I played the PlayStation 2 version for like, oh god, I think I played that one every week or so for like 3 years. I played it like at least once a week. Until my PlayStation 2 ended up breaking. But I maxed out all the created spots. And the game came with like, I think Fire Pro R for PS2, I think that one came with like 330 people. And then you could make like another 200 or something. Yeah, it came with 327 people for the PS2 version. And again, you can have such a big roster and create so many people because it's that simple 2D hand-drawn art style instead of the big million polygon motion captured, you know, like I said, there's graphics and then there's gameplay. And at the end of the day, I'm fine with a game that has a simpler presentation if it's so deep like those games are. I mean, you know, I'll take a roster of 500 characters. They don't all have to look like they just stepped through my TV. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, same here. And especially with this one, it's so extensive that you can build your own, like, actual stables. Like, I've got mine organized to where, like, I have whole stables that are just, like, TNA and just WWE characters. So you can actually get away with doing stuff like that on the game as well.
I was going to ask, do they still have the feature from R where you can create your own organization and create your own rings with different logos and things like that and so forth and so on? Because that was like, I had my WWF roster, my WCW roster, my TNA roster. I had all of that with their accompanying rings and all of that stuff.
Yep, sure do. And they also have like an online community. So like, let's say there's a certain wrestler, you know, you want to get, you don't feel like building them. I'm more than certain, like if you look on there, onto the website, Somebody's probably already made it. All you have to do is click the download, and if it's connected to your PlayStation account or what have you, it'll download onto the game. So as soon as you turn it on, like, that create a character is already there.
It's so awesome. Technology is grand. And I don't mean to disparage, like, the newer... I actually liked a lot of the WWE 2K games. I thought they did get better up to a point as they went on, until they kind of hit a wall in more recent times. But, I mean, a lot of people dismiss them and they say, oh, they haven't been good since Here Comes the Pain. I don't agree with that. But, again, I like variety in wrestling games. I think that it works better for everybody when there's more than one type of wrestling game. We've been kind of held hostage the last 10 years by the WWE games, in a sense, because they're the only game in town.
Hey, because that's good shit!
But, you know, then when something comes out like a Fire Pro, or even, you know, God forbid, but like a Rumble Roses.
Well, that's not good shit.
When something different comes out, it's still like a breath of fresh air, just because we've only had one kind of game for the last decade. And I think that kind of sucks. I don't think the games themselves are that bad. I didn't play 2020. I heard that was terrible. I had a lot of fun with 2K14 and 16. I don't think I got past 16, I don't think I played any of the ones past that, but they're okay, they're fine. I have a lot of fun with them, but the same thing all the time, man. Even back in the day, you at least got 2 or 3 different games a year. You'd have your, you know, even if the WCW games or the WWF games came out, right, the ones on PlayStation would be different from the ones on N64. Nitro was different from Revenge. Better or worse, doesn't matter. But Warzone and Attitude were different from WrestleMania 2000. There was a lot of variety, and I feel like that's what we're missing now. To the point where they're doing their Battleground game, basically trying to create competition for themselves, because there is no competition. And I think that's really been what's been missing the last 10 or so years, and I do think that I really hope AEW doesn't screw this up with what they're projecting their game to be, because this is an opportunity now for somebody to come in and give us something. And I really hope they hit it big, because I think we're all kind of starved for that. I think we can all kind of agree that, you know, the same thing over and over again for 10 years is a little stale, and I think we need something new.
Well, I mean, from what I'm getting, like, AEW's got like a major revenge factor on this, because the reason why, you know, 2K20 was so horrible was midway through the production, like, WWE got rid of Ukes. They were like, yeah, we're not going to use you guys anymore. And they came in with a bunch of programmers that they had to figure out what Ukes did and then try to work on that and finish the game, which ended up with the polished turd that we have, that's 2K20. But from my understanding, AEW has Ukes, which, like, even their gameplay is pretty solid. I mean, it's, you know, the same guys that made, like, some of the older PS WWE games, but also, like, their create-a character is just phenomenal. Like, it's actually, you know, a system that even when Ukes and, you know, THQ kind of did their little own thing, they kept it for other video games. Like, the create-a character system that they had on the old WWE games, they actually have on Saints Row. So, I mean, you know, there's some good potential going on
Now
there.
that's interesting. I haven't played Saints Row yet, but that makes sense that they would do that. I mean, part of what I loved about the creation system that they used to use was that it was so simple. Like, I love the creator wrestler in the modern WWE games. Like, I'm a big creator wrestler, Mark. I max out my rosters. Every wrestling game I play, that's like half of what I do is max out the roster. But even though the detail is so far beyond anything you can consider or compare, what I don't like about playing the 2K games is that if I want to make one guy, it's like a 4-hour ordeal. Like, it's going to take me about 4 hours to make that guy and get his outfit perfect and get all his moves perfect and everything else. Whereas in the N64 games, yeah, you were kind of locked in with lesser options. For example, fully drawn faces instead of being able to pick and move things with slider bars and stuff. But it only took you about an hour to make somebody. And as visually, if you didn't really care if their moves were right, you could slap a guy together in 5 minutes. Like, I've been playing Virtual Pro 2 on N64, and I made AJ Styles in like 5 minutes. It took me an hour to do his moves because everything's written in Japanese, and I had to go through it all move by move by move instead of just looking it up.
Oh, you need a Jupi there to read it for you.
I mean, point of fact, that online, if you play Virtual Pro, there's modded versions of it, but I don't think there's any modded carts that are Americanized. But I know that the fan community for those N64 games is through the roof. Like people online play those games still to this day, and they mod them and they clean up the graphics and they add modern wrestlers to it. And it makes me wish I was a PC gamer, because that's definitely something I would jump on.
Well, I don't know. I think PC gaming might be a little easier, but I don't know. As long as you connect a controller connecting controllers should be easier. But anywho, I'm sorry, but I really have to go.
Well, it's always good having you.
Okay, see you guys.
Yeah,
Thanks
take care.
so much for joining us.
Take it easy.
This would probably be good if there's anything else we didn't cover or anything like that, or anything anybody was thinking of throwing out there that we didn't get to yet.
Just the last game I want to ask if anyone's played. I don't know if Jupi's played or not before she leaves, but have any of you played WWE All Stars? What do you think of that one?
Oh, I've never played it.
It's okay. Again, it's an arcade style game.
But not as bad as Mortal Kombat, though. Like,
no, not like that. But it's very over the top. I mean, like, when you're Ultimate Warrior and you do the press slam, he literally throws the guy up into the roof, and he does like 5 or 6 spins on the way down and things like that. It's very over the top, but it's fine.
Oh, I'm sorry. I know I said I'm about to leave, but just the fact that you just described that for the Ultimate Warrior with something being over the top when he himself is over the top. I'm sorry. That just seems like they just got him pegged. They probably actually asked him about moves and how they should look, and that was probably his vision.
We are talking about a guy that oversells his intro, okay?
Yes.
Yeah. He definitely would have booked that for himself. I mean, point of fact, Hogan made sure they gave him a lot more hair than he really ever had. I mean, they did have a little input. It's an okay game. I have fun with it. My favorite thing about it was that, I don't know if you could still do this, if the servers for it are still open or whatever. I know every few years certain things go offline, but what you were able to do in All-Stars was, if you had that year's version of the regular WWE game, you could import the SmackDown versus Raw roster into All-Stars. So, like, guys like Cody Rhodes and all of that, and Rey Mysterio, and modern Shawn Michaels, and modern Undertaker, like, you could import them into WWE All-Stars. So that was pretty cool. They looked weird, though. Like, they had, like, a weird kind of coloring to them, like a weird... they didn't quite match the in-game models for the All-Stars characters. They were a little smaller because they were more realistic, and the All-Stars characters were big and cartoony looking, but it was neat. It was a neat way of, like, basically tripling the roster, because the All-Stars roster was kind of small by comparison. I liked it. It's just, I like Sims more than arcades, so they're those kind of games are never my cup of tea, but I mess with them. They're fine.
Yeah, I was on the fence on that one, and then, like, I do kind of like the arcade action, just as far as like the finishers go, because I just think they look hilarious. But like for what it was worth, I still something just wouldn't bring me to actually touch that game.
I think it's worth playing. I do think it's worth playing. Some people love it. Like, some people, it's their favorite wrestling game. I've talked to a lot of people like that. For me, I always want more realism than not. But what I liked about that game, again, is that it was different. And sometimes I just want to play something different. You know, I can only reenact that Bret Hart Shawn Michaels Iron Man match so many times. You know, it's good to have variety. So like I said, with Battlegrounds and things like that, it doesn't bother me that they do it. It just bothers me that there's not another wrestling game also coming out this year. Like, that's annoying to me because I want variety. I don't want just one thing. I want to be able to have choice. And, you know, this year sucks for that. But hopefully with the AEW game coming out, you know, hopefully what they're saying is true and they're going to kind of reuse some of those old tricks that worked in the No Mercy days. Because we've heard that before. Like, the people making the TNA Impact game said the same damn thing. And that game was nothing like No Mercy at all. But...
Any mobile phone games you've all played? Have you ever played WWE Immortals?
Nah, I've never played any mobile phone games, period.
You will be highly disappointed in that game. Oh man, it's literally just like, you know, almost like a turn-based. It's so slow, it might as well just be an RPG. Like,
yeah, I know, but it gave me some entertainment. It like came out just at the time as I was like getting back into WWE, and Paige was new to the roster, so it was a big deal that Paige was already in the game and everything, and you know, I had some fun with it. I was just having fun, like, unlocking as many characters as I could and whatever.
Yeah, like, don't get me wrong, the fantasy, like, character designs that they had, I love those. They looked great, but other than that, it's just like, I couldn't get into it.
Yeah.
I remember not that long ago, a few years ago, there was a big push when a lot of people rediscovered WWF WrestleFest, the arcade game. And a lot of people were like, they should bring this back. They should do a modern version of it. And then they did it for, like, a mobile game. And then it wasn't good, and people didn't like it.
Now, I remember that WWE Immortals was one of those first couple of games at the time that actually had Hogan in it, both regular Hogan and Hollywood Hogan. And then they yanked them because that's when the whole Hogan scandal shit started. So they actually yanked them from the game. And I would lose track because after a while they would just... Well, the cool thing is, back when the game was actually new, every week or so you would get a new tournament, and it was based on whatever pay-per-view was happening in real life. It would update with, you know, TLC and, you know, whatever the fuck other ones they had besides, you know, Survivor Series, Royal Rumble, and all them. So it was kind of cool, but... As time went on, I lost track, but I didn't know that they added Xavier Woods as Raiden. They added, like, the actual Johnny Cage in there. They added, there was like some kind of crossover zombie thing where you kind of fight zombie versions of some of the guys, but, you know, besides the guys that were already in the game, they actually released a zombie AJ Styles, but I don't know if they had, like... regular AJ Styles, you know, but yeah, from around there, after that time, like, it just died. I think, like, if you don't have it on your phone now, you can't get it anymore. It's already gone and dead.
Like, if that game would have continued, that would have been funny to have, like, the zombie AJ Styles be released, like, right after the Buried Alive, the Boneyard match.
Yeah.
That, if it's anything, if, I know you said, like, they had the pay-per-view basings, I wouldn't trust that, because that just means, like, I would, as soon as I go to log in, I'd auto-lose to Brock Lesnar.
You know, what's funny is that a lot of people didn't play WCW Mayhem, and it's not that great a game, but one thing that was sort of interesting at that time was when that game came out, there were codes that you'd put in. Every week on Nitro, they would give you a code if you watched the show, and say put this code into WCW Mayhem, and what it would do is it would recreate like a bunch of the bigger matches from the latest pay-per-view, whether it was Fall Brawl or Halloween Havoc. So like that was kind of neat, but things changed so fast in wrestling that like a lot of the guys who were in the game were not even with the company anymore by the time, December rolled around. So by Starrcade, the gimmick was kind of beat, but it was an interesting idea.
Yeah, I remember that we were so excited. We were counting the days because obviously we didn't know what we were counting the days towards at the time, but we were excited for WCW Thunder. And of course, the big thing about the game was that it was like the first game that was going to introduce both, the regular black and white NWO, but also the red and black NWO, Wolfpack, but also like, Raven's Flock and do all that shit. Like literally, the game just fucking came out, and like the very next day on TV, they do the finger poke of doom, and the entire NWO gets together like one huge ass faction. So I'm like, whoop, there goes that.
What was interesting with that game that was like a neat idea that fell short in practice was just being able to move guys from different stables.
Yeah.
They tried to get ahead of that because they're like, well, people change allegiances so much. I think they even said that in one of the previews for the game. Like, people change allegiances so much that we want you to be able to keep up to date with the different rosters, so you could have Sting join Raven's Flock or whatever.
Yeah.
If you wanted to. But what sucked about it, though, was that, like, I don't know how much you messed with it. I messed with it a lot. But, like, Hall's default outfit, for example, Scott Hall, he was in the black and white when that game came out. So his default gear was his black trunks with the white blood. So you'd think, okay, I want his black and red trunks, so I'll switch him to the Wolfpack, so he'll come out with the black and red. However, his Wolfpack attire for Thunder would be jeans and the Wolfpack t-shirt.
Oh.
His actual wrestling gear. So that was annoying. Sting, for example, his default was the Wolfpack gear. I didn't want him in the Wolfpack gear. I wanted him in his regular black and white. But if you switched his allegiance to WCW, I thought it would just be his Crow gimmick. But no, it was still like a Wolfpack gimmick or something. If you wanted him in the black and white face paint, you had to either put him in the NWO black and white or Raven's Flock, oddly enough. Either one, he'd wear his black and white. But if you put a guy in a heel stable, people would throw garbage at them whenever they posed. So it's like, I want black and white Sting, but I don't want people throwing fucking garbage at him. It was like, oh, Jesus. So they had a good idea, but they didn't execute it very well at all.
Yeah, and then, some guys you can't predict them because later on, whenever those guys like Kidman and Sick Boy and all them, whenever they left Raven's Flock, they got like total makeovers, and, obviously the game can't predict that. They're not gonna,
Yeah. It was a good idea, though. I mean, and being able to put people in different stables. Like, you couldn't even do that in the N64 games at that time. What you could do in WCW NWO Revenge, they didn't have Create a Wrestler yet, but you could still go in and... it was kind of weird because the guys were different sizes, so not every outfit would fit every wrestler, but... most of the outfits would fit anybody, so like, you could switch their outfits around and change their names. So like two of Sting's alternate attires were his old surfer gimmick. Hogan had his red and yellow gimmick as his alternates. So you couldn't really switch them around as far as what stable they belonged to, but you could make them look like just about anybody you wanted.
Yeah, one thing I remember is that they had a bunch of unlockable characters, but they were just lazy. Like you could unlock Disco Inferno, but he would just fight like someone else's moves. Like they were just there, so you could see like, okay, they're in the game, but they still fought like borrowing someone else's moves. Yeah,
Thunder was bad with that. Thunder was really bad with that. It was so lazy because, like, I remember in Nitro even. In Nitro, Chris Jericho was a hidden unlockable character, and he'd been around for a bit at that point. They didn't give him the Lion Tamer as a finisher. They gave him the Sharpshooter. I think they fixed it for Thunder, but there was still tons of stuff like that. Like Ric Flair didn't do the figure 4, which was weird. they just got lazy with a lot of guys. Like, Mongo didn't have the fucking tombstone. He just did, like, a tackle. It was weird because they put in a bunch of crazy friggin' unlockable people. Like, the developers were playable. Like, who gives a shit? Friggin' Santa Claus. They had, like, a giant praying mantis.
What the fuck?
Yeah, it was terrible. Like, there's like 200 people in Thunder, but you only want to play as, like, 15 of them.
Oh, Jesus.
Like, even putting Tony Schiavone and Mike Tenay in as playable characters was kind of a stretch. I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. But they had Santa Claus and a T-Rex and a snowman. Like, this is nuts. These guys were smoking crack, probably.
Yeah, I think the giant mantis kind of takes the cake there. So, yeah, I think we kind of did a good part here. I think we, accomplished quite a bit. I'm not sure if there's any. I mean, one thing for sure, I learned a lot more about Fire Pro Wrestling than I ever would have imagined. I kind of figured that with you here, and we had like Jack Knives and then like I kind of figured you guys would have talked about some of the rare Japanese games and stuff like that. But yeah, it gave me a lot to think about. I didn't know they had like fucking 50 games and shit.
I was shocked, man. Like I said, a few years ago, when I decided I was going to finally import Virtual Pro 1 and 2 for N64, I went online and I started looking up all the different Japanese games for all the different consoles, because I said one day, it's my mission, I'm going to play all of these for Super Nintendo and all of these. Not just the Fire Pros, but the everything. And I was shocked. Like, there's like 30 wrestling games for Super Nintendo. We got... Oh, God, what did we get over? In America, we got Super WrestleMania, we got Royal Rumble, we got Raw, we got Saturday Night Slam Masters, and we got WCW Super Bowl. So in America, for Super Nintendo, we got 5 games, and we thought we were spoiled. But over in Japan, they got like 40 wrestling games in that same frame of time. Some of them I never even heard of, but like I said, I'll send you some links, man. But when you go online and you see stuff like Zen Nippon Pro Wrestling or Shin Nippon, like, it's mind-blowing. And I can't wait to play those games someday. But I was just overwhelmed by the sheer numbers. And it just goes to show you how much bigger wrestling in Japan is and has always been compared to over here, where it's kind of like a corny sideshow. But
outlaw macho shit.
They take it seriously over there, and it just goes to show you, because, like, you know, to have the SNES by itself, that system, we're talking about like a 5-year period where they had like 30 or so wrestling games come out. Within a 5-year period. We haven't had 30 wrestling games come out in this country in the last 20 years. You add them all together.
I know.
It's amazing. There's a whole world out there, man. It's like, you know, you got to use the internet for good and not evil. And, you know.
Okay, so no Sunny OnlyFans then, huh?
Yeah, right. Good Lord. Ninja, what are some closing thoughts from you on this very diverse topic we covered today?
Well, yeah, I definitely agree with you. Like, as far as the sheer numbers go with the Super NES, actually with a major bit of the systems, like, as far as wrestling games go, you know, the Japanese systems, they have a much, much broader library. But, you know, you also have to think, you know, to them, the wrestling games are like, you know, kind of like the Madden games and stuff like that here to us. So, you know, of course, you know, it's going to be cranked out a lot more. There's going to be a lot more diverse style wrestling games, things of that nature. But yeah, like, there's a whole world of like wrestling games out there that even I haven't tapped into yet, and something's got to be done. I mean, you know, like you said, the only name in the game right now here in the States is the WWE games until the TNA one comes out, and that's just not cool.
Yeah, I mean, what is good to me about the fact that there's all these games I never played, and Mark, I just sent you a link to one of those for one of the Shin Nippon Pro Wrestlings for Super Famicom. I mean, it gives me something to look forward to because I've played so many wrestling games in my life, but just knowing that there's dozens and dozens that I still haven't gotten my hands on, man, that just gives me so much to look forward to. Because one day I am going to get that Super Famicom, and I am going to get all these games, and I am going to have a blast catching up and playing them all. Because,
well, like I said, man, the adapter, just get the adapter, man.
Well, yeah, that too, maybe. I mean, one way or the other, I'm going to get my hands on. And I love that there's still so many of them so affordable, too. I mean,
yeah,
it's weird because some of them are only $20 still, and it's amazing to me, but good.
yeah, because I still got Dragon Ball Z Final Bout, and like my brother and I, we played the shit out of that game back then, even though we didn't know all the characters yet because we didn't get that far into the series, you know. And I still want to get there's because I love beat 'em up games. There's a Sailor Moon beat 'em up game I've been trying to get, and one of these days I'll actually get around to getting it because, yeah, that was like I have more than one game or two games to play with my adapter, you know?
Yeah, there's actually a couple Fire Pros at the old flea market right around the corner from me that I really want to get one day as well. You know, we'll see how it all goes as far as the you know, whether it be the adapter or the actual Famicom or whatever, but...
Now, the N64, how does that plug to your TV? Is it still a modern enough console? You can just plug it in with the multicolored cord things, or...
Yeah, it's got the red, yellow, and white wires. You just plug it right in the back.
Okay, alright. I'm just trying to think things out. I think I'm gonna end up getting one, it sounds like, so we'll see how that goes. But, because, yeah, I have a...
If you need help, like, you know, there's plenty of things online as far as if you end up importing any Japanese N64 games, you know, like, there's things online. Like I said, I looked it up, and in 5 minutes I was able to take out the one little piece.
I wouldn't. I mean...
It doesn't hurt your system, but the only option, there's another thing you can do.
Get the adapter.
To me, it's harder. For N64, what some people do is they'll buy a Japanese cartridge, right? And then they'll buy a cheap game, like, you know, a baseball game that sells for $2 or whatever, and just swap the back on the cartridge. But you still need the weird screwdriver to do it. So, to me, that's a little more time consuming.
I already found an adapter for like $6 on eBay.
For N64, really?
Yep.
Didn't even know they had those.
Yeah, it looks weird. Not only that, but I'm not 100% sure. It kind of almost sounds like Jupi's gonna just give me her N64, and if I get a gift like that, I'm not gonna wreck it by, you know, risking, you know, whatever. I'm not gonna.
Well, I mean, no, it's not wrecking it. I'm simply saying, like, this is what people have done. It's very simple. It's 4 screws. All you do is you pop it open. And what it is the gray flap inside the system that protects it from dust or whatever. It also has a clip on it that prevents you from plugging a Japanese cartridge into it. But it's one piece. You just remove this one piece and then put your console cover back on and put the 4 screws back in. And, you know... That's literally all you do. It's just the hardest part is that you have to order a special stupid screwdriver that's like $3. But yeah, it's not hard. I was lucky though because my girl still had her old N64, so we had 2. So I just did that on the spare. But yeah, it plays fine, works great. It's just the only thing now is that there's no dust cover. But if you're like me, I always have a game plugged in anyway. So, like, I constantly have a cartridge in my cartridge slot. My N64 is never naked. It's always got a game in it because I'm always playing something. So, but yeah, it's good that there's options out there now, though, because I don't even think when I ordered those, I don't even think an adapter was out. That's that internet, though, for you, boy.
Yeah, I posted a picture of the super adapter I've been using for my Dragon Ball games.
That's good shit. I wish that stuff like the PS2 had an easier way of playing Japanese games. Like the Saturn, all you need to do for the Saturn is you just got to buy an action replay card, which everybody should have anyway, because if you have a Saturn, you know that the memory in the Saturn sucks and it won't hold a saved game and it's got no room in the hard drive. So you need an action replay anyway because it's a fucking memory card. But if you got the action replay for your Saturn, all you got to do is punch in or flip a thing and it plays fucking Japanese Saturn games. I wish it was always that easy.
Well, yeah, that was because the internal memory card that they had in there was pretty much controlled by a battery that you put in your watch.
Yes, same thing. And they died constantly, but even without that, they didn't have a lot of room. There was like a really paltry amount of memory in the Saturn battery, so it wasn't reliable. Like if you had more than 2 games that you wanted to save data on, you had to get the action replay. We found that out the hard way.
Now, what's sad is, like, a whole system will lose memory like that, but I could probably put my Legend of Zelda cartridge in a Nintendo right now and still go back to my save game.
Oh, yeah, that blows my fucking mind, too, because I've still got, I played Dragon Warrior on NES for the first time a couple of months ago, and I bought that game without playing it. I bought that game at least 15 years ago, which means it probably hadn't been touched in about 20 years, at least. And there was an old save on it. And they tell you the NES carts, they're like, oh, the battery life for the storage is, expected to be up to 7 years. I have save games on some of my NES cartridges that are 20 years old or more. And it's like, wow. I don't know how. I don't know if it was voodoo, witchcraft, whatever, but God bless them. Because it doesn't even make sense. But it works.
Oh, yeah, they kept those things durable. I mean, I could still pull up my save game from Deja Vu right now.
Oh, man. See, one day we got to do another one that's just about games. Just random gaming bullshit. That'll be another one we got to do one of these days. Maybe a different title. But that's what it'll be about. Random gaming bullshit.
There you go.
I'm down.
Anytime.
Yep, and of course you're welcome to join us, whenever the next AEW pay-per-view, we do predictions, we do funny punishments, like making people watch Sonny's OnlyFans and stuff like that, and everything. So you're also invited to join us for that, man.
Awesome, I'll be more than happy.
And also, can you tell the people out there more or less what piece you're working on now, or any things they should know, or, pimp your Insta, your commissions, all that good stuff?
All right. Well, my Instagram is NinjaPanda1980. So currently I'm working on a AEW piece where it is Cody Travers from the Final Fight series. Now, originally I was kind of keeping it quiet until I started drawing him in, but I'm just going to go ahead and tell it now. His opponent's going to be MJF, and the reason why I put those two together, let's face it, Cody's a Final Fight character. He's a good guy, but he fights dirty, and then you have MJF who, well, he just fights dirty. So I figured that would be a good match to pit those two guys together, so I'm going to draw that up and see how it turns out, and hopefully we'll have that done probably by tomorrow night.
Wow, that's pretty fast.
Very cool.
And we'll put the link below, guys, so you guys can check it out. Alright, guys, that wraps up this episode of the Diving Cutter Podcast. A very special episode. We got, slightly different topic with all these wrestling games. Something outside of just AEW all the time. Even though we do cover other things, it's very AEW friendly, But, this is Mark Rodriguez here, signing off.
Rikki Roxx, God of Thunder, as always, happy to be here. Looking forward to the next time, and thanks so much for having me. This was a blast.
And Ninja Panda 1980 had a damn good time. Hope to do it again soon.
Yep, and of course, Jupi already said goodbye, but, we'll be glad to see you all guys here next time. Y'all take care.